Hello, 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 billionaireette. Hope you're having an amazing, amazing day. I'm here to read with you the book that we've been reading for financial freedom. It's Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. We're on chapter 8 right now. Um, a little change of scenery here on the balcony, really enjoying this weather. It's nice. So that's one of the cool things about read with me. You don't have to be like in an office, watching something, or you don't have to like literally be concerned about Wi-Fi or anything. All you have to be concerned about is whether you have the book in the physical, or if you don't have the book, you can listen it to audio. Okay. So one of the cool things that we're super, super pumped about is the Billionaire Inner Circle, because as we're finishing up the Rich Dad, Poor Dad, we've actually just selected the new book that we're going to be reading for the month of February. And we're super, super pumped for it because these Rich Dad, Poor Dad golden nuggets that we've been discussing in the Billionaire Inner Circle have been priceless. Like when I say priceless, I mean like people are actually implementing it and then they're like, oh shoot, like I could have done this, I could have done that, and I'm going to start doing this because it's definitely going to be a huge ROI for not only my business, but since a lot of people are actually doing their taxes, it's a really, really great way to leverage. So I'm super pumped about this. Some of the key takeaways that we've gotten from chapter um, one through 1 through 7, because now we're going to start in chapter 8, have been really awesome. Highly encourage you to jump into the Billionaire Inner Circle, even watch some of the previous read with me's that are in the playlist that we have available. Really, really awesome. We have both personal and financial freedom. Both of those playlists are available to you. And if you have any questions whatsoever, just drop it in the comments. We're always very active in the community, and one of our team members will be able to, connect with you right away. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. This day has been so great, right? Ever have a day that you wake up and you're just like, bring it on? Or like you feel really, really rested and you're like, oh, that was such a great sleep. You know, that's what it's all about, having purpose. Okay, let's get into it, shall we? Okay. So chapter number 8, getting started. Wow, that's funny. Getting started. So he starts with, there's gold everywhere. Most people are not trained to see it. Cool. I wish I could say acquiring wealth was easy for me, but it wasn't. So, in response to the question, how do I start? I offer the thought process I go through on a day to day basis. It really is easy to find great deals. I promise you that. It's just like riding a bike. After a little wobbling, it's a piece of cake. But when it comes to money, it takes determination to get through the wobbling. It's a personal thing. To find $1 million deal of a lifetime requires us to call on our financial genius. I believe that each of us has a financial genius within us. The problem is that our financial genius lies asleep, waiting to be called upon. It lies asleep because of our culture, has and all the education that we've had till this day into believing that the love of money is the root of all evil. It has encouraged us to learn a profession so we can work for money, but failed to teach us how to work to have money work for us. Strong. It has taught us not to worry about our financial future because our company or the government will take care of us when our working days are over. However, it is our children educated in the same school system who will end up paying for the absence of financial education. The message is still to work hard, earn money, and spend it. And when we run short, we can always borrow more. Unfortunately, 90% of the Western world subscribes to the above dogma simply because it's easier to find a job and work for money. If you are now one of the masses, I offer you the following 10 steps to awaken your financial genius. I simply offer you these steps I have personally followed. If you want to follow them, if that is great. If you don't, make up your own. Your financial genius is smart enough to develop your own list. While I was in Peru, I asked a gold miner of 45 years how he was so confident about finding a gold mine. He replied, "There is gold everywhere. Most people are not trained to see it." And I would say that it is true. In real estate, I can go out in a day and come up with 4 or 5 great potential deals, while the average person will go out and find nothing. Even looking in the same neighborhood, the reason is that they have not taken the time to develop their financial genius. So I offer you these 10 steps as a process for you to develop your God-given powers, the powers of which you have full control of. Number 1, find a great reason. Find a reason greater than reality. It is the power of spirit. If you ask most people if they would like to be rich or financially free, they would say yes. But then reality sets in. The road seems too long with the many hills to climb. It's easier to just work for money and hand the excess over to your broker. I once met a young woman who had dreams of swimming for the US Olympic team. The reality was that she had to get up every morning at 4 o'clock to swim for 3 hours before going to school. She did not party with her friends on Saturday night. She had to study and keep her grades up, just like everyone else did. When I asked her what fueled her superhuman ambition and sacrifice, she simply said, "I do it for myself and the people I love. It's love that gets me over the hurdles and sacrifices." A reason or a purpose of a combination of wants and don't wants. When people ask me what my reason for wanting to be rich is, that I tell them that that combination of deep emotional wants and don't wants is what keeps me going. I will list a few. First, the don't wants, for they create the wants. I don't want to work all my life. I don't want my parents I don't want what my parents aspired for, which was job security and a house in the suburbs. I don't like to be an employee. I hated that my dad always missed my football games because he was so busy working on his career. I hated it when my dad worked hard all his life and the government took most of what he worked for until his death. He could not even pass on what he worked so hard for when he died. The rich don't do that. They work hard and pass it on to their children. Now, the wants. I want to be free to travel the world and live in the lifestyle that I love. I want to be young when I do this. I want to simply be free. I want to control my time and do my life. I want money to work for me. Those are deep-seated emotional reasons. What are yours? I'm curious, yeah. Like, what are your deep-rooted emotional triggers? Like emotional reasons? Like if someone asks you, like, why are you doing this? Why on earth are you doing this right now? Like, what's your why? I know one of my whys right now in actually doing these read with me sessions are, one is to level up my skills in communication and also to hold myself accountable in reading the books that I want to read. If I set a goal of, hey, 22 books for 2022, yes, I can be held accountable for myself, and I can write it down in my notebook and I can put it on my office, like, a checklist and stuff. But the fact that I have to read out loud, take time out of my schedule to read out loud to you and then post it on YouTube and share it with the community and share my thoughts around it and have amazing community members come together and ask me questions and also share their insights on it, and I have to be part of it. All of that is like on a whole nother level of accountability. So what emotional reasons do I have behind doing this, for instance, is the fact that I'm committed to growth. I'm skills that need some polishing, such as reading or communication, or even the ability to comprehend, you know, and to always fill this up with all the amazing knowledge that's out there. You know, I truly do believe that yes, we can watch a YouTube video, we can go to an event, we can listen to a talk, or even buy a course, or even, you know, subscribe to something, or even pay for a service, right? But I do believe that if someone is willing to write a book, right, and invest all the time that it takes to actually write a book, produce the book, edit the book, get it published, and then promote it, I do believe that there's like some hidden secrets in that thought process of getting the ideas from your from your head, from your experience from the past, and then putting them onto physical paper, you know? So again, I mean, there's so many emotional reasons why to actually do this. I would love to know yours. I would love to know why you wake up early, why you don't wake up early, or why you decide to work late, or why you decided to go on your own venture and start your own business, or maybe you're working at an awesome company that you believe has great growth potential and you're committed to that development. You know, there's so many amazing reasons out there, but what is yours? At the end of the day, what is yours? What's keeping you going? Right? So just had a little take a little break in there. Cool. So those are the deep-seated emotional reasons. What are yours? If they are not strong enough, then the reality of the road ahead may be greater than your reasons. I have lost money. I've had setbacks many times, but it was the deep emotional reasons that kept me standing up and going forward. I wanted to be free by the age of 40, but it took me until I was 47 with many learning experiences along the way. As I said, I wish I could say it was easy, but it wasn't. It was actually quite a learning roller coaster. It wasn't hard either. The fact is that I actually learned what was going on. I've learned that without a strong reason or purpose, anything in life is hard. Without a strong reason or purpose, anything in life is hard. If you do not have a strong reason, there is no sense reading further. It will sound like too much work. So that's actually in caps. This is the first capitalized information that he has in this book. So he feels very strong about this one. Okay. Make daily choices. This is number 2. Make daily choices, the power of choice. Choice is the main reason people want to live in a free country. We want the power to choose. Excuse me. Financially, with every dollar we get in our hands, we hold the power to choose our future, to be rich, poor, or middle class. Our spending habits reflect who we are. Poor people simply have poor spending habits. The benefits I had as a boy was that I loved playing Monopoly constantly. Nobody told me Monopoly was only for kids, so I just kept playing the game as an adult. I also had a rich dad who pointed out to me the differences between an asset and a liability. So a long time ago, as a little boy, I chose to be rich. I knew that all I had to do was learn to acquire assets, real assets. My best friend Mike, had an asset column handed to him, but he still had to choose to learn to keep it. Many rich families lose their assets in the next generation simply because there was no one trained to be a good steward over the assets. Most people choose not to be rich. For 90% of the population, being rich is too much of a hassle. They invent saying things that go like, I'm not interested in money. I'll never be rich. I don't have to worry. I'm still young. When I make some money, then I'll think about my future. My husband or wife handles our finances. The problem with those statements is that they rob the person who chooses to think such thoughts of two things. One is time, which is your most precious asset. The second is actually learning. Having no money should not be an excuse to not to learn, but that is a choice we all make daily. The choice of what we do with our time, our money, and what we put in our heads. That is the power of choice. All of us have a choice. I just chose to be rich, and I make that choice every day. Invest first in education. In reality, the only asset you have is your mind, the most powerful tool we have to dominion over. Each of us has the power and the choice of what we put in our brain once we're old enough. You can watch TV, read golf magazines, or go to ceramics class, or you can also go to a class on financial planning. You choose. Most people simply buy investments rather than first investing and learning about investing. A friend of mine recently had her apartment bulgarized, so robbed. The thieves took her electronics and all that was left of her books. Wait, the thieves took all of her electronics. All that was left was her books. And we all have that same choice. 90% of the population buys TV sets, and only 10% buy business books. Interesting. So, what do? I do go to seminars. I like it when they are at least 2 days long because I like to immerse myself in a subject. In 1973, I was watching this guy on TV who was advertising a 3-day seminar on how to buy real estate for nothing down. I spent $385 on that course, and it has actually made me at least 2 million, if not more. But more importantly, it bought me life. I don't have to work for the rest of my life because of that one course. I go to at least 2 such courses every single year. I love CDs and audiobooks. The reason is because I can easily review what I just heard. I was listening to an investor say something I completely disagreed with. Instead of becoming arrogant and critical, I simply listened to that 5-minute stretch at least 20 times, maybe more. But suddenly, by keeping my mind open, I understood what he said. It was like magic. I felt like I had a window into the mind of one of the greatest investors of our time. I gained tremendous insight into the vast resources of his education and experience. Wow. It's literally what I was kind of just mentioning. Like, the ability to have this book or listen to audio, you are opening the portal to someone else's education. It's up to you to take the time to learn it and to really invest your time into comprehending it. The net result, I still have the old way I used to think, and now have a new way of looking at the same problem or situation. I have 2 ways to analyze a problem or trend, and that is priceless. Today, I often say, how would Donald Trump do this? Or Warren Buffett? Or George Soros? The only way I can access their mental power is to be humble enough to read or listen to what they have to say. Arrogant or critical people are often people with low self-esteem who are afraid of taking risks. That's because if you learn something new, you are then required to make mistakes in order to fully understand what you have learned. That is so strong. The only way I can access their vast mental power is to be humble enough to read or listen to what they have to say. Arrogant or critical people are often people with low self esteem who are afraid of taking risks. That's because if you learn something new, you are then required to make mistakes in order to fully understand what you have learned. That's strong. That is so true. If you have read this far, arrogance is not one of your problems. Arrogant people rarely read or listen to experts. Why should they? They are the center of the universe. There are so many intelligent people who argue or defend when a new idea clashes with the way they think. In this case, their so-called intelligence combined with arrogance equals ignorance. Each of us knows people who are highly educated or believe they are smart, but their balance sheets paints a different picture. A truly intelligent person welcomes new ideas, for new ideas can add to the synergy of other accumulated ideas. Listening is more important than talking. If that were not true, God would not have given us 2 ears and only one mouth. Too many people think that their mouth instead of listening in order to absorb new ideas and possibilities. They argue instead of asking questions. I take a long view of my wealth. I do not subscribe to the get rich quick mentality most lottery players or casino gamblers have. I may go in and out of stocks, but I am long on education. If you want to fly an airplane, I advise taking lessons first. I'm always shocked at people who buy stocks on or real estate, but never invest in their greatest asset, their mind. Just because you bought a house or two does not make you an expert at real estate. That's extremely true, and I'm glad he brought that up. You know, so many people out there, not only doing the whole get rich quick thing, but hiring companies out there that don't know what they're doing and expect them to solve their problems when they haven't themselves internally solved their problem or even looked within to ask themselves, how can I solve this problem? You know, so many, there's so much information out there, so it could get extremely confusing. And it's not your fault, but it is your fault if you don't take responsibility and do the research required to know that you are in control, that you do have options, and that you should never be in a position where you can't do something. You should always be in a position on how to find a way to do something, or how can you look at things in a different way to get things accomplished. It's amazing. It's amazing. I really resonate with that a lot because there's so many people out there that have a very narrow way of thinking. You know, sometimes myself included. I have had moments where I know when I put something in my head, okay, I'm like laser focused. I don't see anything, nothing can stop me. I'm like this, focused. And then when something comes in the way, like my first reaction, sometimes depending on where I'm at in the milestone, is to just bulldoze over it and just keep going, you know? But it's always been those moments where I can stop and reflect and take a look at the situation from a third point of view, or a high level point of view, that those instances actually turn out to be one of the greatest opportunities of our life. And I'm not just talking about my life because I'm married and I have a family and it's not just me anymore, and I feel like sometimes when someone is married or they have kids you know, or they have employees, now that pressure becomes real versus when you're like alone and single and you might not have other people be dependent on you, that maybe you overlook things, you know? It's until other people are very dependent on you that you start taking life extremely serious and intentional. That was a really, 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 really powerful chapter. Or number 2. Okay. Okay, so now number 3. Choose friends carefully. The power of association. First of all, I do not choose my friends by their financial statements. I have friends who have actually taken a vow of poverty, as well as friends who earn millions every single year. The point is that I learned from all of them. Now, I will admit that there are people I have actually sought out because they had money, but I was not after their money. I was seeking their knowledge. In some cases, these people who had money have become dear friends, and I've noticed that my friends with money talk about money. So don't do it to brag. They're interested in the subject. I learn from them and they learn from me. My friends who are in dire financial strait do not like talking about money, business, or investing. They often think it's rude or unintellectual. So I also learn from my friends who struggle financially. I find out what not to do. I have several friends who have generated $1 billion in their short lifetimes. The 3 of them report the same phenomenon. Their friends who have no money have never come to them to ask them how they did it, but they do ask for 1 or 2 things: a loan or a job. Warning. Don't listen to poor or frightened people. I have such friends, and while I love them dearly, they are the chicken littles of life. To them, when it comes to money, especially investments, it's always the sky is falling. The sky is falling. They can always tell you why something won't work. The problem is that the people actually listen to them. But people who blindly accept doom and gloom information are also chicken littles. As that old saying goes, birds of a feather flock together. If you watch business channels on TV, they often have a panel of so-called experts. One expert will say the market is going to crash and the other will say that it's going to boom. If you're smart, you listen to both. Keep your mind open because both have valid points. Unfortunately, most people only listen to the chicken little. I have many close friends that try to talk me out of a deal or an investment. Not long ago, actually, a friend told me he was excited he found a 6% certificate of deposit. I told him I earned 16% from the state government. The next day, he sent me an article about why my investment was dangerous. I have received 16% for years now and he still receives 6%. I would say that one of the hardest things about building wealth is that you have to be true to yourself and be willing to not go with the crowd. This is because in the market, it is usually the crowd that shows up late and that is typically slaughtered. If a great deal is on the front page, it's too late in most instances. Look for a new deal. As we used to say as surfers, there's always another wave. People who hurry and catch a wave late usually are the ones who wipe out. Mm. Some smart investors don't, smart investors do not time the market. If they miss a wave, they search for the next one and get themselves in position. This is hard for most investors because buying what is not popular is frightening. Timid investors are like sheep going along with the crowd, or their greed gets them in when wise investors have already taken their profits and moved on. Wise investors buy an investment when it's not popular. They know their profits are made when they buy, not when they sell. They wait patiently. As I said, they do not time the market. Just like a surfer, they get in a position for the next big swell. It's all insider trading. There are forms of insider trading that is illegal, and there are forms of insider trading that are very legal. But either way, it's insider trading. The only distinction is how far away from the inside are you? The reason you want to be rich, or the reason why you have rich friends, is because that is where the money is made. It's made on information. You want to hear about the next boom. Get in and get out before the next bust. I'm not saying to do it illegally, but the sooner you know, the better your chances are for profits with minimal risk. That is what friends are for, and that is the financial intelligence. Love that. Number 4, master a formula and then learn a new one. The power of learning quickly. In order to make bread, every baker follows a recipe, even if it's only held in their head. The same is true for making money. Most of us heard the saying, you are what you eat. I have a different slant. I say, you become what you study. In other words, be careful what you learn because your mind is so powerful that you become what you put in your head. For example, if you study cooking, you then tend to cook. If you don't want to be a cook anymore, then you need to study something else. When it comes to money, the masses generally they are one basic formula away from actually getting to where they want to go. But the masses generally have one basic formula they learned in school, and it's this: work for money. The predominant formula I see in the world is that every day millions of people get up, go to work, earn money, pay bills, balance checkbooks, buy some mutual fund, and go back to work. That is the basic formula or a typical recipe. If you're tired of what you're doing or you're not making enough, it's simply a case of changing the formula via which you what how you make your money. Years ago, when I was 26, I took a weekend class called How to Buy Real Estate Foreclosures. I learned a formula. The next trick was to have the discipline to actually put into action what I had learned. That is where most people stop. For 3 years, while working for Xerox, I spent my spare time learning to master the art of buying foreclosures. I've made several $1 million using that formula. So after I mastered that formula, I went in search of other formulas. For many of the classes, I did not directly use information I learned, but I always learned something new. I have attended classes designed for derivative traders, commodity option traders, and chaologists. I was way out of my league. Being in a room full of people with doctorates in nuclear physics and space science, yet I learned a lot that made my stock and real estate investing even more meaningful and more lucrative. Most junior colleges and community college have classes on financial planning and buy traditional investments. They are good places to start, but I always search for a faster formula. That is why, on a fairly regular basis, I make more money in a day than many people will make in their lifetime. That's a good one. Another side note, in today's fast changing world, it's not so much that you know anymore that counts. It's because often what you know is old already. It is how fast you learn. It is how fast you learn. It is how fast you learn. That skill is priceless. It's priceless in finding faster formulas and how recipes will actually work to your favor. If you will, that is how you make the dough. Working hard for money is an old formula born in the day of cavemen. Wow. Wow. That was so good. That was so, so good. Okay. This is the last one we're going to be reading in this particular video. In the next video, we're going to be covering the next from 6 to 10. So number 5, pay yourself first. The power of self-discipline. If you cannot get control of yourself, you do not try to get rich. If you cannot control yourself, do not try to get rich. It makes no sense to invest, to make money, and blow it. It is the lack of self-discipline that causes most lottery winners to go broke soon after winning millions. It is the lack of self-discipline that causes people to get a raise and immediately go out and buy a new car or take a cruise. It is very difficult to say which of the 10 steps is the most important, but all the steps, this step is probably the most difficult to master if it's not already a part of your makeup. I would venture to say that personal self-discipline is the number one delineating factor between the rich, the poor, and the middle class. Simply put, people who have low self-esteem and low tolerance for financial pressure can never be rich. As I have said, a lesson learned from my rich dad was the world will push you around. The world pushes people around, not because other people are bullies, but because the individual lacks internal control and discipline. People who lack internal fortitude often become victims of those who have self-discipline. Damn, that's strong. It is the entrepreneur classes I teach. I constantly remind people to not focus on their product, service, or widget, but to focus on developing management skills. The 3 most important management skills necessary to start your own business are the management of cash flow, number 1, people, and personal time. I would say the skills to manage these 3 apply to anything, not just on entrepreneurs. The 3 matter in the way that you live your life as an individual or as part of a family, a business, charitable organization, a city, or even a nation. Even if these skills are enhanced by the mastery of self-discipline. I do not take the saying, pay yourself first, lightly. The statement, pay yourself first, comes from George Clayson's book, The Richest Man in Babylon. Millions of copies have been sold, but while millions of people freely repeat that power statement, few actually follow that advice. As I said, financial literacy allows one to read numbers, and numbers tell the story. By looking at a person's income statement and balance sheet, I can readily see if people who spout the words pay yourself first actually practice what they preach. A picture is worth 1,000 words. So let's review the financial statements of people who pay themselves first against people that don't. Study the diagrams and see if you can pick up some of the distinctions. Again, it has to do with understanding cash flow, which tells a story. Most people look at the numbers and miss the actual story. So this is the actual diagram that is being shown. Do you see it? The diagram reflects the actions of individuals who chose to pay themselves first. Each month, they allocate money to their asset column before they pay their monthly expenses. Although millions of people have read Clayson's book and understand the words pay yourself first, in reality, they pay themselves last. Now, I can hear the howls from those who could actually sincerely believe in paying your bills first. And I can hear all the responsible people who pay their bills on time. I am not saying to be irresponsible and not pay your bills. All I'm saying is to do what the book says, which is pay yourself first. In the previous diagram is the correct accounting picture that actually shows that action. So it says from your job, your salary is income, and then the expenses are taxes, rent, and food. Okay, that is what people who pay everyone else first do. So if your income statement looks like that, then you are not taking full advantage of the opportunity of paying yourself first and getting what you need to persevere and start building your asset column. If you can truly begin to understand the power of cash flow, you will soon realize what is wrong with the previous diagram. That is why 90% of people work hard all their lives and need government support like Social Security when they are no longer able to work. Kim and I had many bookkeepers, accountants, and bankers who have had a major problem with this way of looking at pay yourself first. The reason is that they think that financial professionals actually know what's going on. But in fact, they actually do what the masses do. They pay themselves last. That's why your accountant is not your financial advisor, nor is your financial advisor your accountant. They are bean counters. That's why you need to get educated. That's why you need to show up to the table and say what you want and how you want it. If you depend on them, the bean counter, the person that is paid themselves last, to pay you first, they won't do that. So you have to be educated. You have to take responsibility in learning the fundamentals and getting ahead of the game because no one else will do that work for you. There have been many times in my life when, for whatever reason, cash flow was far less than my bills. I still paid myself first. My accountant and bookkeeper screamed in panic. They're going to come after you. The IRS is going to put you in jail. You're going to run your credit rating and they'll cut off your electricity. I still paid myself first. Why, do you ask? Well, because that's exactly the story. That is the battle cry. The richest man in Babylon was all about the power of self-discipline and the power of internal fortitude. As my rich dad taught me, the first month I worked for him, most people allow the world to push them around. A bill collector calls and say, pay or else. A sales clerk says, oh, just put it on the credit card. Just charge it up. Or your real estate agent tells you, go ahead. The government allows you a tax deduction on your home. That is what the book is really about. Having the guts to go against the tide and get rich. You may not be weak, but when it comes to money, many people get wimpy. Wimpy. Don't be a wimp. I am not saying to be irresponsible. The reason I don't have high credit card debt and doodad debt is because I pay myself first. The reason I minimize my income is because I don't want to pay the government. That is why my income comes first in my asset column through a Nevada corporation. If I work for money, the government takes it. Although I do pay my bills last, I am financially astute enough to not get into a tough financial situation. I don't like consumer debt. I actually have liabilities that are higher than 99% of the population, but I don't pay for them. Other people pay for my liabilities. They're called tenants. So rule number 1 is paying yourself first. Don't get into the consumer debt in the first place. Although I do pay my bills last, I set it up to have only a small unimportant bill that are due. When I occasionally come up short, I still pay myself first. I let the creditors and even the government scream. I like it when they get tough. Why? because those guys do me a favor. They inspire me to go out and create more money. So I pay myself first, invest the money, and let the creditors yell. I generally pay them right away. Anyway, Kim and I have excellent credit. We just don't cave in to the pressure and spend our savings or liquidate stocks to pay for consumer debt. That is not financially intelligent. To be successful, you have to pay yourself first. Keep the following in mind. Don't get into large debt positions that you have to pay for. Keep your expenses low. Build an asset first, then buy the house or the nice car. Being stuck in the rat race is not intelligent. When you come up short, let the pressure build and don't dip into your savings or investments. Use the pressure to inspire your financial genius to come up with new ways of making more money and then pay your bills. You will have increased your ability to make more money as well as your financial intelligence. These are the strongest 2 points, literally sum up the whole entire book. So many times I have gotten into financial hot water and used my brain to create more income while staunchly defending the assets in my asset column. My bookkeeper has screamed and dived for cover, but I was like a good soldier defending the fort assets. Poor people have poor habits. A common bad habit is innocently called dipping into savings. The rich know that savings are only used to create more money, not to pay bills. I know that sounds tough, but as I said, if you're not tough inside, the world will push you around anyway. If you do not like financial pressure, then find a formula that works for you. A good one is to cut expenses, put your money back in the bank, pay more than your fair share of income tax, buy safe mutual funds, and take vow for being average. But this violates the pay yourself first rule. The rule that does not encourage self-sacrifice or financial abstinence. It doesn't mean to pay yourself first and starve. Life was meant for you to enjoy it to the fullest. If you call on your financial genius, you can have all the goodies of life, get rich, and pay your bills. And that is financial intelligence. Pay yourself first. Pay yourself first. That is what it's all about. In the next video, we're going to be covering 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Okay. I hope you got a lot out of this video. I know I did. And it's amazing what you can really accomplish when you become financially literate, you get tough in the inside, and you're able to allow the others to scream, but actually use their scream as motivation to get more money and pay yourself first consistently. Don't forget it. You come first. If you allow others to come first, then you're always going to end up last. And that's not the greatest place to be. Okay? So I hope you enjoyed chapter 8, part 1. We're going to be going into chapter 8, part 2 in the next video.